Paul Jones and Doug Smith, who have been kind enough to cover the World Cup, the FIBA World Cup for us the last week or so. And we've had some highs and lows, boys. And you have to love international sports because there are two teams that always celebrate. The team that finishes first, which is Germany, not the team that finishes second, and the team that finishes third, because it's the old magic of how you win your last game, you're in good shape. So Canada beats the United States 127-118, wins the bronze medal, first time in history, as I recall, that Canada is a medalist at the FIBA World Cup, and it has to make you feel pretty good, right, Paul?
It does, and I will kind of put my Canada basketball board member hat on. It does. It makes you feel good. I look at what Michael Bartlett has done since he's come in, and this is showing just part of it. I mean, he's been working tirelessly behind the scenes at upgrading everything with the program. I mean, bringing equal travel and benefits and stuff to the women's team, and like he tapped me on the shoulder about the Hall of Fame, and then I went and tapped Doug Smith on the shoulder about the Hall of Fame to have, some history. Like, he's just done a wonderful job. And then the other guy it really speaks to is Rowan Barrett, building the team. I mean, he had to get a new driver for the car, on August 1st. And he came up with Jordi Fernandez, who did a terrific job. But, Rowan, I think, deserves some credit as a homegrown guy building the team. We've had other guys come in and do great things in Canada for sports. When you think about, a Pinball Clemens with the Argos, you think about a Masai with the Raptors, you think about all these people. But Rowan's a kid from Scarborough, and he wore the Canadian uniform. So there's a couple guys that deserve a lot of credit. And, again, I say this, never mind as a basketball guy who 40 years ago this month walked away with a silver medal for Canada in the Commonwealth tournament, but also as a board member too. On both fronts, I'm thrilled. And we still have a better team that we could put on the floor if the chemistry fits.
Okay, Doug, you're our resident historian because you're older than Jones, I think.
Hey, he's got me by about a month. Okay.
So well, I was right.
We're in the same vintage. We're the same vintage.
Tell us what this means in terms of basketball in our country.
Well, again, it goes to what we've been talking about for a decade: is the growth of the sport at the grassroots level that produces quality athletes who get good coaching domestically and become accomplished global players. And we've seen it coming, and it took longer than I thought. That the 2015 team that missed out on Rio was a very good basketball team, didn't get it done. This group finally did, and I think that's the heartwarming part of it, is that you always knew the possibility was there that Canada would be among the top 4 or 5 countries in the world in basketball, but that was just talk. And now this group did it, and I think that's the point that's going to resonate with people. That all along we heard, Canada's got great players, great team, great program, great. Look at all the number of Canadians in the NBA. Well, they never did anything until this week for 20 years, and it's great to see them do it. And I think it's going to be a huge springboard in a lot of ways it'll give some legitimacy to the national team men's program. I think Canada basketball can leverage it financially with sponsors, and I think teenage kids are going to think the national team is a thing they might want to do rather than a thing they will kind of do if it fits into their schedule.
And to Doug's point, fellas, our guys have not always, only a select few, and Doug, you'll agree with this, only a select few have been wired to want to play with the maple leaf on their chest. We came through a generation where, in my time, everybody wanted to do it. And then the NBA came around and scholarships and all this other stuff. And well, as Doug said, if it fits, I'll do it. Now, I think you're seeing a rewiring of our kids to want to play at the senior level with the maple leaf on their chest. Go back
to the point, Paul, to the point where there are players, great Canadian players, that have tainted their reputations in our country for not playing. Like Jamal Magloire I will never. I mean, and this is me personally. I will never forgive him
Well,
because
knowing
he
the
and
inside,
I don't
John,
know all the stories. I don't
yeah,
know all the stories, but
knowing the inside of that with the insurance and the contracts, I can see where he would say, "Look, it doesn't fit." As Doug said, it's something I'll do if it fits. But you look at our academies, the under 17 teams. Hey, R.J. Barrett beat the U.S. as an under 19 player for a gold medal. This has been building, and as Doug said, it's always been there. The genie's just never come out of the bottle, and now it has, and it's not going back in. And guys like Shea and to me, the guy, my favorite player, one of my favorite players to watch on this team was Nikhil Alexander Walker. I mean, these guys are wired to play for Canada. And as Doug said, now you're going to get the grassroots. It's going to be the thing to do. Like, hey, I want to play, get a medal in the Worlds or the Olympics, or and it's going to resonate and trickle down to that level in a big time way.
So this is less a question for you two guys, but I do want you to sort of follow up on this. One of the things that I think this win does is it makes playing for the national team cool. And I'm using like that word specifically because both you, Paul, and Doug know that a lot of this happens because players talk to other players. We just saw literally breaking as we're taping this, LeBron James is trying to pull an Avengers again to try to get all the U.S. guys to play in Paris and win. But the one thing that I can tell you just from obviously growing up in the States is that playing for that team, this is what the Michael Charles team, like that made like it, they made that cool. Like they made that like important. And I think the most important thing that's going to come from the Worlds, Doug, this is just my take, is that not only this group, but the group, as you guys said, after that, they're going to make basketball players in this country like want to be part of this because it is a cool thing. You got to win. Like that's obviously at the end of the day, but that's what I feel like this group has done is like they turn the reputation from sort of it being in some ways kind of like a hassle to now it being like, oh man, like I want to be part of this experience. That's my read.
No, you're absolutely right, Richard. And the interesting thing is I remember talking to Dwight Powell, got to be 2 years ago now. And we talking about, why do you play for Canada? He goes, because I keep hearing Luka talking about playing for Slovenia. The guys in Dallas they hear about JJ Barea playing for Puerto Rico or Nikola Jokic playing for Serbia. They hear, the San Antonio guys, hear Manu and Tony Parker and those guys talking about playing for their countries. And it's something they love to do. And now you've got a group of Canadians who are the same people as those veterans from Argentina, Slovenia, Serbia, Australia. Those guys, this is the Canadian group that's going to start that. And I think you're going to get guys who are around the NBA. I know all the young kids, Shaden Sharp, Andrew Nembhard, Ben Mathurin, Leonard Miller. They all want to play. And I think Los Angeles in 2028 is going to be their time. Maybe the World Cup in 27 in Qatar. So you're going to get, Richard, that's right. It's going to be a cool, career enhancing thing to do rather than just something that I'm going to go play for Canada.
Well, and that's where I go back to what I said. We're rewiring our kids to want to play for the country. Yeah. And because John mentioned before, you couldn't always get, I mean, hey, there was a time when Steve Nash didn't play. And remember that, Doug? Everybody was all over him, but because of contracts and insurance and all of those things with Phoenix. And oh, by the way, you have an owner who says, I'm paying you $20 million. Like, I don't want you out there running around in your short pants with another flag on your chest and getting hurt. I'm paying you that money,
I remember when Steve backed on the 2002 World Cup in Indianapolis. That was the thing he did not play. But he had played for a decade.
Yes.
He had given 10 years to his and he went to play in South American bus garages at the qualifier. He didn't fly first class to go play in Manila. So I give he put his time in. But yeah, we went through from I guess 04 till 14. It was you had to pull teeth to get NBA guys to even think about playing for Canada.
Yeah.
And now you got a group where they want to do they build their summers around the 5 weeks they're going to be with the country.
And I think, Doug, some of that has come from some of these guys being in the junior academies. Like I said, playing in the U17 Worlds, the U19 Worlds, and then the specter of intimidation from these other countries is gone. Not one Canadian player had any iota of intimidation by, you know, the vaunted Americans. I mean, like, come on. Like, the best player on the floor, the two best players on the floor were Canadian. And so I think some of that is all part of, you know, what I call the rewiring. And it's, as Richard said, it's cool now. It really is.